You must stay at home. Stay at home.
Hello and welcome to Lockdown, hosted by Steve Bomford with Mike Davis-Marks. Our armed forces operate in challenging environments. Week by week, we'll explore what we can learn from their experiences.
So, Steve, I understand for our next podcast, you've managed to procure a Royal Marine turned actor.
Yes, and what a fascinating chap this guy is. Many years soldiering, his words, and then inexplicably, I think, from his comrades' point of view, he chose to become an actor. But this is an interesting journey for sure.
Well, it'll be good to hear the journey through your interview with him.
So let's give it a listen. Tip, thank you very, very much for agreeing to come on the podcast today. It's been a bit of an admin nightmare, as these things always are.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve, for having me.
Great. So let's get straight into it. So if you could just tell me a little bit about your time in the Royal Marines. You were in for quite a while, so I'm sure there's lots to tell. And then we'll go from there.
Right, Steve, I'll try and summarise and use a bit of brevity and clarity and get it straight to the point as best I can. Because many people that do know me in the Royal Marines and well, in wider life know that I could probably talk the leg off a hind donkey as such. And so I'll keep it brief. So young Irish man, grew up in Belfast, had this sort of like, again, probably an epiphany where I needed to become a Royal Marines Commando. So in a way, I left a big part of my life behind me in Belfast and moved over and became a Royal Marines Commando. And to be honest, when you know that you have to do something, that was it. And I knew that I had to become a Royal Marines Commando. So I went off and I'd done it. I was, focused. You have to be a Royal Marine. And I achieved and got myself into the Corps. From that time, my goal as such was become a Royal Marines mountain leader. So after my time initially in 4-2 Commando and other commando units, I became a Royal Marines mountain leader. It specializes in mountain and Arctic cold weather warfare and forward reconnaissance and long range patrol. So I'd done that, and when I achieved that, I was a corporal in the Royal Marines. I thought, right, job done, exactly where I want to be. The goal, I am here now. That's where I am. And then somebody said, "Oh, yeah, we're going to promote you to sergeant." I thought, no. And from there, it went on and on. And after a roller coaster of an incredible career with many, many adventures with many incredible people, which sadly I did lose a few of them on operations during that time. And this is anything I do now is to their memory. But it was an incredible, it was exactly what I wanted and inspired to become, to be, and what I searched for. And the Royal Marines gave me everything at that time that I needed. So I done my time in the Corps, went from a young dreamy Marine up to Warrant Officer First Class. Then I got commissioned and I finished my regular career as a captain in the Royal Marines, seamlessly transferring to the reserves, which after 30 years, if there's still an appetite for you to be in the Royal Marines from both ways, I definitely would consider, because it helps massively with your transition. From there, the reason I did leave the regular Royal Marines was to train, because I had another moment where I decided, I know exactly what I have to be. But at that time, I thought it would be a storyteller. So I was looking, I was in the same commando unit as my son, and I said, right, I need to do something different. I'm wearing my reading glasses now. Maybe I'm on a different, part of the plateau as a Royal Marine, where really that's not where I aspired to be. But I was still giving benefit, but it wasn't for me now. I had to move on. I was a commando, Royal Marines Commando all my life. And now I was like, I wasn't, I would say, firing on all cylinders in the capacity I wanted to, in a regular sense. Definitely in a reserve sense, but not in a regular sense. So I had to do something else. I said, right, let's get myself educated in some way. Let's go to university. And I used my service support and my LCAS to help fund my university, or to do a degree. Now, to do the degree, my epiphany moment was to be a storyteller. So the storyteller, and I thought creative writing, that's got to be the way forward. So I went to Marjon University in Plymouth, looked at what they had on offer, and creative writing was there. But right beside it, there was this other degree in acting. I thought, acting, that's a form of storytelling, isn't it? And then I mapped across all the skills that we did as Royal Marines, and you do from Marine right through up to whatever rank you get to. Is we rehearse all the time to make sure we do it right. We always perform optimally. We're always in a theater of operations, all the terminology seemed to be the same. And then you realize that whenever you're delivering, especially in a leadership capacity, you have to in some way act, or it's acting, because you've got to inspire people. So in a way you are yourself, but there are certain times, especially I'd say in kinetic and pretty hostile environments, where people look to you for inspiration, and probably in a way you're quite intimidated yourself, and frightened, but you're like, oh, no, step up the mark, let's do it. So the actor comes out, right, lads, we're going forward here, and we're going to do what we have to do. So really, I think whether it be in that type of environment, in a hostile environment, or throughout, instructing or wherever else, there's definitely a performer or an actor in every service person. And I think I like to be considered, I think I'm at the front of the bow wave as it comes into, service people entering into the creative arts, because we've got so much magic, and I think we live it. I don't really consciously know we live it, but we do live a life in the arts or being creative. So that's why I trained, went across, done an acting degree, and became a professional actor. And I graduated 3 years ago, and let's say it's just one small step onwards and upwards, and it's working at the minute, and I'm happy.
Good. So let's rewind a bit. I can't imagine that when you joined the degree course, how old was everybody else? No disrespect to you. What was that like? Because I'm guessing they're probably a lot younger than you, maybe, like early 20s or something like that.
Oh, no, they were. I mean, I think everyone else, bar myself, were in their age range between 18 and I think the most mature student next to me was 24 at the time.
Right.
And I was 47. So there was a bit of a chunky gap. But but I think with being a service person, because I've continually sort of like kept myself fit, focused, I wouldn't say cool and trendy, but definitely sort of contemporary, because you're dealing with, and you work with young people all the time.
Right.
I felt that I did fuse in, but in a very much like, fatherly, grandfatherly way with my young colleagues. And they were exceptional. I mean, when you're a young person, you've got so many different challenges in life and considerations, what you're going to do, where's your aspirations going to take you? Where am I going to live? Am I going to have a family? There's so many life choices still to be made, whereas I was already been consolidated and had all these, in the bag. But it was when I did sort of like decide that I was going to become an actor, I never really at that time considered the Royal Marines Reserve. But it was my wife said to me, she said, do you not fancy joining the reserves? I said, well, no, I've done nearly 30 years. I'm time down the Corps, move forward and do something else. And she goes, no. Do you not think you should consider the reserves? And I'm going, she's getting at something here. She really is getting at something here. And I think when I went to university after the first couple of days, I realized that the sort of like the change from where I was to where I was going to, and that transition period at university, I think joining the reserves, which, luckily I was able to do, that massively, absolutely, I think fundamentally assisted in my change and my transition into, pseudo civilian life and, becoming an actor. And that, my colleagues in the reserves, they help with it, because I think a lot of people in the reserve service, whatever, branch they're in, they realize, when they've got their lives, they've got their family, they've got the civilian jobs, but it's nice to bounce back and into the service, whether they're ex-regular or, they've joined the reserves, and that's they've always been a reservist. It's really I think it helps with dealing with society, being in the reserve service. So, that purely is my sort of like angle on it. That's my part of ship looking at it. You know what I mean?
So when you say dealing with this society, you talk about still having a foot in the Marines in this case. Is that important to you?
It was. I don't think it's as important. It's important to me because I love being a Royal Marine, whether it's reservist or regular. You know, that's when I was growing up, that's what I wanted to be. The second epiphany to become an actor, you know, that you know, my heart's there, my focus is there, and I'm trained professionally to, you know, make sure that happens. But I think my heart will always be a Royal Marine. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think that's it. And I have to say, no, we were talking about our blues and what we do with our old blues and our old different uniforms. I'm going to keep my blues, my current blues, you know, for when I do leave the service, which is very shortly anyway. When I do leave the service, that's what I'm going to get buried in. That to me that's what shaped and made me. I think a lot of things in it, you know, influences make who you are. But the Royal Marines was such a massive influence and conditioning me as a human being I am, and I'd say so positively, it's unbelievable.
That's a great story. That is, I think, once a Marine, always a Marine is the phrase, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think in my corps, it's once a Royal Marine, always a Royal Marine.
Well, it is your corps, after all said and done.
Again, our corps.
So when you went to university and obviously you met these young people, did you have any conversations about your background and why you were doing what you were doing? And did that inspire young people that you were on the course with? Or was that just something you kept to yourself?
I mean, I hope it did. And like I said, when I do meet a group of young people, it's just wonderful. And I think any people it is, or any human beings it is, because we are all so individual. No matter how much we maybe try and clone ourselves with somebody else, or you know, or follow like different sort of trends or whatever else, we're so individual. It's incredible. So you know, I got in with this gang of you know brilliant young individuals who had got all this passion to become actors and you know be creative and do things. And a lot of them had already you know got a you know, they were young, but they'd already got a depth or a background proportionally in their life, which was massive for, you know, being in the creative arts. And so really I picked a lot out from them as well.
Right.
Hopefully what I give them was a few crusty old sort of like sea stories and, you know, I mean, ups and things in that there, but also, I'm a mature guy, so I could give them like a bit more angle on what thoughts and like elder people are playing. And also when we were creating things, I can always like bolt on and be that older sort of male or whatever's needed. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It educated me massively. I still, the jury's out with me about the whole sort of academic and university thing against an apprenticeship as an actor in a repertory theater,
yeah,
or an apprenticeship as a teacher, or it's still it didn't go right. I understand academia, what we do, and our processes and our structures, that they're still valid. So it's just, I think that's definitely something for, not for me, but for me it didn't sort of like, oh yes, I get it now.
Yeah.
I still, that's still out, and the jury is still out in that respect. And I think definitely think nationally it's worth a discussion as well.
So I don't think there's anything wrong in saying that you're not entirely sure about academia. You're talking to someone with a geography O level and a pottery CSE. That's it.
The pottery CSE is the one that's going to be creating things. You know what I mean? It's and I'm going, no, that's magic.
Yeah, I was quite good at pottery, but that was a long, long time ago.
So rusty.
Yeah, you did your degree. What happened next?
Well, from that, I was very lucky during my time at university. Just before I started the degree course, I got linked in by people from the Marines, but also I bumped into the Theatre Royal Plymouth group. They were at the Armed Forces Day on the Hoe in Plymouth, and I said, well. But I was, because when I was speaking to my lecturers and that before I joined, I said, is it worth doing drama and doing this? And I said, well, it is. Any sort of like, theatre work is worth it. But, you've got to focus on being a professional actor. So Theatre Royal, I thought, well, that's it. But I got involved with a community project with the Royal British Legion's Bravo 22, which is still an incredible organisation, and I've done a few bits of work with them. And the play we done was Boots at the Door, and it was written by Jonathan Guy Lewis, who I've done another play with, Soldier On, and we performed it. We obviously there was a gang. I sort of joined it after the storytelling that sort of set the actual journey of the story. But I was able to input, and give, like, from personal experience, just different views or pathways for that story to unfold. And we performed it just before Christmas in 2015, and it was incredible. So we were on the lyric stage, big theatre in Plymouth, pretty packed audience, and we performed it. And all the people involved were either veterans, veteran families, and we'd only maybe 3 or 4 just full professional actors that hadn't really got that much of a connection with service life. But everyone else involved were service people. Lee Hart was the director, was an incredible guy. I still keep in touch with him because he's very capable. He's a brilliant actor and director. And obviously Jonathan Guy Lewis, who I treat as a friend, and I see quite often in workshops and working with another company called Soldiers Arts Academy. So that gave me my first stepping stone. So when I finished university, obviously during university, I managed to start putting fingers in pies. So I started doing extra work as well. So I managed to get work on Kingsman 2. I shot up the front of a building. It's quite, a featured extra. Then I was on Ready Player One, got to meet Steven Spielberg, chew the fat with him on set, and a few of the quality sort of like A-team Hollywood team he has with him. And then after that, I worked on Mary Queen of Scots. So it was a bit of an action extra as such on Mary Queen of Scots, which was, again, a good adventure. But for me, it was education on what's this, what the grips do, what do they do, what's the first, second, third ID, how does this work, and that gave me great exposure to it. And like I said, at the minute I'm working on again in a big film project, but it's not in a glamorous role or in an acting role, but it's a well-paid job, and it keeps me in the set of making some serious magic, which should be on our screens next year. And wait and see how it goes. So I had that during that, got my training when I was at university. Coming to the end of university, I got opportunity to a second Bravo 22 project called Unspoken, and a playwright and actor, Gary Kitchen, from Newcastle. He lives from Durham, but living up Newcastle way. He sat down with a lot of Bravo 22 members, and we created a story set in what could be a rundown service persons club, not from Tiger Venom, just a service persons club. Could be anywhere in the United Kingdom, or even, I'd say, on an allied nation globally. So they're sitting there. You obviously got that slightly dysfunctional paths that some people may have had. Also, like people that have been on operations, both male and female, and their stories. And I played one of the characters who was basically just called the man in the corner. I never even had man in the corner. I never even had a name. So, and I was just on the side of the stage, sitting in the corner, and I'm an individual who's suffering quite, heavily with his experiences and his family's experiences, and he tells that story as part of it. And that was incredible. We done that in just near Remembrance Time in, what is it, 2018? No, it's 2017. So it's just in near Remembrance Time, 2017. And that was at the Theatre Royal in Newcastle. Again, great, well received and everything else. And the Royal British Legion decided to invest in it. And then we took it to Edinburgh Festival and a small national tour in the summer of 2018. And that was another, as an actor, a new actor, getting paid. Obviously, it's bursary level, so it's more still in the sort of community theatre realm, but you're treated and you're working in a whole completely professional actor. So we done Edinburgh Festival, Liverpool, where else did we go? Lose me marbles now. Sadler's Wells. We finished off in Sadler's Wells in London. But it was, experience for me as a new, older actor. I couldn't have got it better. And they've really helped me to smooth that pathway and give me exposure to both theatre and film work. And then after nearly fairly straight after that, I got involved with the Soldiers Arts Academy, and we'd done a one-off performance called Shakespeare in Remembrance at Shakespeare's Globe to mark the 100th year of the signing of the armistice, the end of the First World War.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another honor, but a gobsmacking experience to get involved in. And that was me performing in a couple of short bits of Shakespeare, but also I'd done a monologue that I sort of wrote myself and took in bits of Shakespeare. And that was for about 15, 20 minutes on the Sam Wanamaker stage at Shakespeare's Globe. And it was a story very close to my heart because it was about my family, but also it just fused in with, some of the extracts and the trauma and happiness and that comes from Shakespeare as well.
Mm. So your time in the Royal Marines, do you draw upon that and if so, how do you draw upon that when do you get stage fright? I mean, how do you draw upon your service career in terms of acting?
Well, I've working in theatre and TV. Sometimes when I'm there, there's a book by Declan Donnellan called was it The Target? The Actor's Target, I think it's called, the book. But he talks about the fear, the actor's fear, the fear of being on stage, the fear of not achieving, the fear of being, ridiculed in some way, the fear, it's just different fear, and how you have to overcome the fear. And I was like, the fear. So it's a bit what we used to call in the Marines, it's a bit like babbing your wack. When you're proper pooing yourself before you go and do something, because you might think things are going to be really bad here. We used to call it, you're babbing your wack. But you weren't allowed to ever bab your wack. So, but for me, when I started sort of to feel that there was maybe a bit of, that creeping into his nerves and that, it took me a while to sort of get it right. So I had to, so for me, when I was at university, I struggled a bit with digging deep into the emotional vein or the emotions inside my body because of my time in the Royal Marine. And I think this is another, it adds into why and how I think you have to play mind games as well. But for an actor to become credible and believable, especially when it's extreme emotions, you've got to pull a lot of yourself into that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And when, I'm just checking my email, right? So you got to pull yourself into it. But for me, I really morally struggled with digging into those emotions from, friends of mine, beloved friends who that's the times where I've felt really emotional, and family as well, where I've been hit hard, and to use that moment or that memory when these things have happened or we've lost them or whatever else, that to me as an actor, I just thought, that's me bankrupt, isn't it? Surely they're my memories, and that's the respect, the people that I lost, even like, both friendly forces and enemy forces, that you've got to hold on to them for the sake of a memory. And it took me a while to break that wall down inside my head to go, no, I need you. I need you to come with me to make sure that I can give the believability for you. You know what I mean? And it's something that I'm very, very sort of sacred with it. I will not go there. I don't sort of like gratuitously jump in there when I need to sort of do anything. So it takes me a while, one, to get in there and hold it, but also to bring it forward. I know that sounds very actor and lovey, but for me, it's just a human being. And because you've been in the Royal Marines for so long, I've built up this wall of resistance, which I think you need as a Royal Marine, especially when you're doing you're involved in operations and they can be intense at times. So you do have to protect yourself and protect that emotion and vulnerability. It doesn't mean to say that you transform into some sort of somebody who's emotionless. It's not that, but you've got to keep those sacred. So I've now got this reason now. If I have to dig into emotion, I go and visit certain places, and I can tap on people to go just help me with this one, and their memory does really help me to get to those places. But also when I got on stage and I'm playing in front of whatever amount of people, one, as a Royal Marine, you'd be lecturing to 600 people anyway. I mean, sometimes you'd be lecturing to a hopeful commando unit. that's what you do. But when you've gone on stage and, maybe it's a press night, you're going to get reviewed and everything else like that, you've got to be on your game. So even if I have a little sort of sense that, ooh, this could be a bit cheeky, I just have this memory and I've got all my friends just sitting around and it's a bit like that, what do you call it, Stardust, the film where they die and they all sit. They're all sitting on a wall going, all right, let's see what's happening now. So I've got my gang of friends sitting there looking at me going, so you're nervous. So somebody can shoot at you from 30 yards away with a Kalashnikov and you're not bothered about that. But you just got to walk on there and stand and talk. And you're nervous. You're a cheat. You're a fraud. And I'm going, gents, I am happy with that. I shall move on task. Stowed away. And then, that to me just cleanses my soul and going, look, come on. You know what I mean? And that's me as a person, that life experience lets me get there and go, yeah, I'm here. Let's just go and let's get amongst it. Let's do it. And that also, so you've got those people and family members that are going, they're always with me.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that the human spirit and the human being, I think we all know that, but we just don't know why we do, or why they're there, why we have that protection.
But it's also, forgive me, but it sounds like a good way of remembering people as well and what they mean to you. Is that am I right in saying that? I mean, I can't draw on similar experiences, but I just wonder if that's also a positive experience in some ways as well. As difficult.
No, I mean, for me, one of the sole reasons I'm a storyteller now is to keep their memories alive, so if I can get involved in any way, shape and form, obviously as an actor and storyteller, I want to tell, stories that will interest, everyone in the wider thing. But the people who I've lost, they were, to me, some of the finest human beings that walk this planet. So if I can in any way sort of, keep their memory alive, or just their substance, what they were and who they were, and their warmth, their oomph, their everything in life. I think that's really important, because I think people in future generations will learn so much from those people. I think as we do, we watch things like about the Second World War. I mean, you've got to remember that essence. I mean, it's just too credible and real compared to so much superficiality in the world today. But their essences will always be really, really the substance of my life. You know what I mean?
That's a beautiful way of explaining it and doing it, Tip. I have to say, I think you're very eloquent talking about that, and yeah.
That's if you might be able to understand it when you do the after the game talking about going, what was he talking about?
We've got a Babel fish, Hitchhiker's Guide for automatic translation.
Yeah.
So that will probably help. So where are you at now in terms of what you're working on? What's going on in Tip's life at the moment?
Well, I've just, as I said, as a storyteller, fingers in many pies. Fingers in pies at the minute. I was meant to be doing a play called Les Grotesques at Camden, and then at Brighton Festival, and maybe looking at Edinburgh. But COVID's paid to that. I was casting as Carson, one of the lead sort of farmer in it, and it was I was looking forward. It was an Irish play. It was about an Irish stud farmer who has issues with his son coming back from London, who obviously basically states that he's now homosexual. He's going to get married, and the struggles of the old coming to the new, both in Ireland and in civilization or in life now. Those the struggles with, do the freedoms destroy things, or what do they do? Is it constructive, destructive? But it's an experience, so it allows people to argue the fact, but allows people to go, look, we're all the same. We are who we are, and the more we communicate and not fight and not build walls, the better it is, and the more understanding people get. And I think that would help so much, even today, because we are far more open and we do talk. I think it would help so much more in this thing. So that's prepaid because of COVID. Myself, and obviously our Sammy, you've had Sammy on a podcast, haven't you?
We have. I bumped into him this morning on cycling in to record your podcast.
Yeah, he's an absolute gem of the Royal Marines and the Naval Service, because he obviously transferred and done more time as a naval photographer, videographer, And I think he's, in a way, has revolutionized the way, the naval service, capture the business. I think, Sammy was seriously part of that evolutionary part, even revolutionary, I'd say, that jump into digital videography and what they're actually doing now. So he's obviously moved on from the service, and he's put together a collaborative team between himself, Dan Shepherd and James Clark. And they had a few ideas, stimulus coming from Sammy, and they've created Sunray. And Sunray, again, it's one of those things. I've got so much trust in these guys because their ability to capture images, their tech know-how, their savvy, their storytelling capability. I'm so glad to be part of the gang and involved in this. And I'm playing Andy, who's Sunray, who's Echo One. And it's a troubled character who's post-operations has been suffering massively from survivor's guilt, potentially PTSD, and all these issues, get compounded when he's transitioning back into society, and it just builds and builds, and he's struggling with what he is. I'll not do any spoilers, but there's a bit of an escalation. There's a few triggers that change his life path at the time. But he's a very vulnerable person. He's massively broken, and he's lost everything that he loves in his life, including potentially friends and operations. So I can empathize massively, sympathize massively with the character. But it's a character who's very close to me, where I've moved forward in the things that I've experienced as a Royal Marine, and there's a time where potentially I could have been on his path easily, but because of the support of a strong clan and a lot of good friends and being open about things, I think I've that has helped me massively get through. And it's not like I was suffering. I'm a human being, so when you're exposed to those type of things, it does affect you in some way, and people take it differently, but it definitely impacts you as a human being. I think you would have to check yourself if it didn't, in a way, change you or scar you psychologically in some way from that experience. And this isn't just service people. This could be, could be people in the ambulance service, people working in hospitals, people that walk along the street and see something traumatic, anything. But also the measurement of trauma can be a different level. So it's for everybody, but it's a story that I can fully lean into and become part of, more so than a lot of those other things. But this is very much a parallel sort of like line that I've followed for quite a long time before we broke off.
So I'm right in saying it's an action drama, but I think, or at least I assume I'm right in saying that, but do you think this is also a vehicle for perhaps being able to explain to a much wider audience, and by that I mean a non-military audience, some of the challenges that service personnel experience, particularly after operations? Do you think it's a vehicle for that as well?
Oh no, I'd love it to be. I'm quite passionate about what it is and how we deliver it, and if I can in any way help the creators who are, and they've got my full trust. But the forefront of my mind is everything you said there, all those issues. I'm going, that's it. We're doing it with. There is action. It's a thriller, drama involvement, but there's extremes in it, which you've got to go right, and it's extremes of probably violence and control, and there's quite a few things in it where it's prevalent. It happens in the world today. These things happen, but just see what just triggers, what drives it, what human beings are capable of, but also looking for resolution. And what way we can avoid things like that happening. So it'll be exciting. It'll be a journey. It'll be a roller coaster for all the cast and the makers. But I want it to be, I want it to land on for all my friends that are no longer with us, for their families, for those people that have been suffering when they've come back from operations, for their families that have been, trying to support them. And I think really, which is very deep with me at the minute, is those Royal Marines that when they got back, didn't get right back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That have really struggled with it, and some of them unfortunately have taken their own life, which to me is, after what they've been through, is really, it's heartbreaking.
It is. So I think you're about to go into the major segment of filming of this, aren't you, in July? Am I right in thinking that?
We are obviously in between my day job, what I'm doing at the minute. This next weekend we're shooting quite a good chunky scene, and then after that, mid-July, we're doing the main bulk of filming. It's been building. We've done little bits and pieces. That's going to be the main chunk, and then we're looking at potentially just a small piece of filming in August, and the series. Then we're going to post, and whenever the guys have got the platform where they're going to deliver it, where they're going to air it, we should, like, in autumn time it should be out. But I cannot wait, because the guys are so talented and gifted with creating film. I mean, you must admit, anybody who does follow us or who listens to this, who's seen Sunray, I've seen the trailer. Especially, I mean, in my industry now, people say, "Oh, what are you up to?" "Oh, I'm doing Sunray. This is a trailer we shot for Kickstarter." And they're sort of, that actor went, "Oh no, it's wonderful. That's wonderful." And then they look at it and they go, and then all of a sudden they're going, expletives come out. They're going, "Oh my God. Oh, what's this on? What's this? Where are you doing this?" You know what I mean? And so to me, that little measurement, which was filmed over 2 days with just a lot of very proactive former Royal Marines, former service people and their friends, and that just massively, it just,
yeah.
As soon as that came out, as soon as that hit, I have people in the industry going, whoa, what's this going to be on? And that's the quality. And this is the magic that triumphant of 3 quality individuals, and their magic and their storytelling, because they've written the scripts. I'm really looking forward to it. I really think, and I know it won't hit the ground running until it is fully, we've got it in the bag properly. And it's, it is in the can as such.
So if it's half as good as your passion and enthusiasm that you've just articulated there, it's going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. So you're also working on a few other projects, aren't you? A homeless veterans project as well?
Yeah, I was lucky enough, again, another little bit of time off my day job. Last week I filmed a homeless veterans short film, and it's in support for Hats Off to Bootsy charity, London-based, written by Sean Johnson and Nigel Fair. Nigel's quite good when I met him. He's an opera singer by trade. He spent his life being an opera singer, and he was on the fringes of becoming a Royal Marine in his early days before it. But he's an absolute gem. But whilst we've been rehearsing before we done the film last week, so during COVID we've been rehearsing by Zoom for quite a while. He's like rehearsing with one of those meticulous DS or sergeant major that will not let you get away with bugger all. So I was honestly, I have been beasted by Nigel for about a year now, really, just on and off, in between, meeting up, right, let's go, let's hit the strip, let's change the angle, do this. And then we looked at how we're doing film. So we've shot it all. It's in post at the minute. We shot it in Fulham Broadway the week before last. It's a short film, and it hits on the short film hitting on the plot or the lot of a homeless veteran, and why that individual is there, why that person's there. But what Nigel and Sean have done is they've based it. There's a play they've written, which hopefully I can get involved with, called The Terminus, which they've written, and it's based on a homeless individual, a homeless soldier, based just after the Battle of Waterloo. So in sort of early, sort of mid-Victorian times.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a homeless veteran, and he lives in Brussels at the train station there. And he's a French veteran from Waterloo. But it's just his background, his life, his intellect, everything, and all those, people take for granted what a homeless person is. not that depth. Why they're there? Why are they scarred? You know, why do they have to be as they are? And the play is, when I read the play, when Nigel first gave me that, I was gobsmacked. It's like, but it was like reading some really, for me, it was, you know, I'm not an expert, but it was like reading some really quality, even Shakespeare level, just the way the story flowed, the language. And I loved it straight away. And I'm going, that is me. You know what I mean? And the character in the play is called Boney, but obviously Bootsy is a contemporary, veteran, homeless veteran. Bootsy, but we layer it with words and phrases from Waterloo, and he lives in Waterloo Station, so he's homeless, but his place, his spot is at Waterloo. So that's connection to Waterloo, the trauma happened there, the trauma that happened to him, what it's all about, loss and that. Do you care? Do you care? What's it about? And when that comes out, because for me, emotionally, that 4-day film and rehearsal and filming was an emotional roller coaster. So I really do hope that, I mean, it's in post now, the shooting with good quality cameras, good quality people, there's a good crew. The sound was quite hard because we were across the road from a building site, and there's this incredible sound guy, Matteo, the Italian guy, and I look across and he hit it, and I'm obviously doing my bits and pieces, the boom's coming in, and Nigel will go across, Matteo, sound good? And he just lift his thing up and go, no, you do shit. But so cool with it, because you get sign guys that are quite, they struggle with that, but he just goes, no, shit, we'll sort something out. No, so cool. You know what I mean? But so brilliant quality. So it's in post at the minute. When it comes out, I'm going to be very proud of it, because it links in veteran homelessness today, but that link through for eternity of people that have been subject to that trauma and the challenges they have. And so many veterans today are on the streets, homeless. And I'd be honest, I'd have to say, statistically, you can't say that's because of this, because of that. I'd say statistically, that's because of their experiences. That's changed their life forever. And I think as a service person, the only person that you always work well in the team, and that's maybe the loss of the team when they go outside, the transition, everything. But you can always be dependable. You can survive by yourself. I'll be all right by myself. Don't have to, I'll not break anyone's hearts. I'll not do this. I'll not do that. Yeah. So that you've got that independence. And I think that maybe even go to the level of homelessness. But I can't. I don't know the answer to it. But all I know is statistically, there's a lot. Disproportionately, a lot of service people or former veterans that are homeless. And if I can support that in any way, I'm there.
Well said. I think that's quite a really interesting way of explaining the kind of challenges people who've been in the military have experienced for time immemorial. This is not a new phenomenon. We just talk about it in very, very different ways now, because probably we understand it in ways that we, the whole idea of trauma and the impacts of seeing traumatic things, whether it's military or not military, has not been well understood. And I think being able to draw those parallels to Waterloo, just goes to show that it's not a new phenomenon. I think that's a really nice way of kind of explaining that.
And again, it's the plight of a soldier. You don't take sides, do you? What you do as a soldier, because you're working for the people that you trust and your culture you trust. But it's the same. It's the same. I mean, whatever side you're on, you're gonna suffer.
Yeah, it's about people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the color of the tunic was, so to speak.
No.
So what does the future hold, Tip? What you're hoping to work on? Dreams and aspirations?
Well, the reason I was adrift today, even though I was adrift, all good to go, Steve, we're on board, that's it, yeah. I had an audition this morning, so I had a self-tape this morning. I had to get done, and I was like, so I had to, so thank you so much, and thank you Monty Halls, obviously, because he was on before me. So
for our listeners' benefit, we've had quite a few chats, haven't we? Sort of false starts. I think you were in your van with your sleeping bag sound damping and all the rest of it. But
in fact, with that one, that was last week. But that one, I've got to give that a chuck up as well. That's a documentary. It's going to be released in America and I think online as well, called 45 Days, and it's about the war in Armenia, between Armenia and Azerbaijan about 3-4 years ago. And that's a documentary created, filmed and done by Emil Gessan, who's a former Royal Marine, who's now a documentary maker. And he just said, look, can you do this? Well, he wanted, you'll like this one, Steve. He wanted somebody posh. Jizz. And he got me.
Whoa.
So
how deep was this barrel?
It was exactly. So I basically done a voiceover for the opening part of it, and I hope it does get produced. It doesn't get cut or put on the cutting room floor, but it's such, even just that it's about a 4-minute voiceover just about the history of Armenia and the trials and tribulations a group of people have had, inflicted by other people, other cultures, other governments, politics over a period of time, and you're going, Christ, it's so sad and heart-wrenching, and it's good to capture that. And this is something that we don't know about. People don't know about it. It's a bit of education, but I don't think it. I try to think it's not taking sides, but there's obviously people that are delivering this, whether people are delivering the hardship or even to some levels genocide, and it's got to be, if it's not sort of documented or put on the table, then what we doing? So, and I'm not. But the thing is, a heart-wrenching story about the Armenian people and where they are today, about Nagorno-Karabakh and what's happening. So that was what I was doing with that duvet doing a voiceover in the back of my van.
So, as I said, what else are you working on, or what you're hoping to work on?
Well, I'm saying prayers, hoping that theatre gets back to where it should be. I mean, theatre is just, COVID has been so hard for some, not only just beautiful wonder theatres, but for young actors, for people that are starting to get in the business, for old actors that have to pay mortgages. It's been gobsmacking.
Yeah.
And but also, I like to get, so any theatre, well, I love theatre. Theatre is my passion, but film work is, I think it's something I still have to work harder at to be a good film actor. So I just keep playing away at it, keep doing it. My agent is Julie Fox, a Julie Fox associate. She's an incredible mentor and guide, gives me so much guidance. And, hopefully I can get, obviously trade goes her way, and she obviously lands me with auditions like it did this morning, which was nice. And I've just got to keep plugging away. What I want is to be able to tell stories. Fame and fortune, I don't need that. I've got everything I want in life, and I just want to be telling stories. So it's good because I'm busy all the time now doing what I love doing. And obviously I start seeing things now and see stories just happening everywhere where you can create things and hopefully I can move on to writing maybe. But I love being a storyteller. I love being the guy on stage, whatever I have to do. And I like the dynamics of the field, and as an actor, you can do so much.
Well, thank you for telling your story, Tip. You've managed to keep it down to 40 odd minutes, so that's really, really good. So
I'm gobsmacked again. Another gobsmacking moment.
Well done. No, I'd just like to say thank you so much, because I know some of that's difficult to talk about because there's some pretty serious stuff underlying all that, and I'm sure our listeners will appreciate that. But I think also I'm really sort of struck by how you draw upon that, and about remembering those that that we've lost. And I think that's really important, because their memories is how they continue to live on, I think, and that's important. So once again, I'd just like to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We got there in the end.
No, Steve, thank you very much. And like I say, take care, and I hope to see you soon when we're down your neck of the woods, or I'm down your neck of the woods.
I'm looking forward to it. You never know, I might pop up when you're doing some filming.
Brilliant. Take care.
So I told you that would be interesting, didn't I? What did you think?
Well, what I think, Steve, is I always learn a bit about you for every single one of these interviews, and I now learn that you've got a geography O-level and a pottery CSE. Well done, you.
That's a fairly outstanding selection of qualifications. I'm sure you will agree.
I'm sure your mother was very proud of you at the time.
Yeah, let's not discuss that.
Well, indeed. Tip's I've not met Tip, but he sounds a really interesting character. The boy from Belfast has not one but two epiphanies. The first epiphany is to become a Royal Marine Commando, and you can imagine what that might have gone down well in Belfast or not. And then sometime later, 30 years by the looks of it, he has another epiphany rather late in his career to become an actor, which is what he is now. So I don't think I've met many. I've met many actors, but not in the sense of professional actors who are ex-military. But this is the first professional actor I've met who joined the services.
So I get the impression from Tip there's quite a few more of them out there as well. So maybe we should ask to speak to them as well. So it's an interesting change in career, I think.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, he had a fascinating career in the Royal Marines. He did really well because he joined as a basic Marine after his first stint at 4-2 Commando. Became a mountain leader, which is one of the, it's quite a tough, respected cadre within the Corps. Rose up through the ranks, corporal, couldn't believe he became a sergeant. There was that, glee or, oh no, what have I done? And then Warrant Officer First Class got commissioned and ended up a captain in the Royal Marines. So his journey from, basic Marine, Royal Marine Commando to a captain, commissioned officer in the Royal Marines over a 30-year is an incredible journey in its own right, and that was all in the first 5 minutes. But boy, don't underestimate the things he had to go through and the experiences he got in making that Royal Marine journey.
Yes, and I think it's the way it inspires and informs his new career as well. I think that was the really interesting part of this.
Yeah, because you can see later on in the interview, he draws on quite a lot of that in terms of trying to get the right emotions into the part he's playing and things like that, which is really interesting, actually. Also, he talked about joining the reserves. In fact, I think he told you that his wife told him to join the reserves. But the reserves feature in a number of of your interviewees for the podcast, and clearly, the reserves are a very important part of our armed forces. They're often forgotten about because they're part-time, not full-time, but actually they feel a load of niche capabilities, and actually, if you're not considering a career in the armed forces as a regular, please, listeners, do give the reserves a look at, because that is an opportunity to serve, but on a part-time basis.
Yeah, and I think when we spoke to Monty, he talked about how the reserves helped him. So it's kind of a two-way street, isn't it? And the reserves helping people who have served in the regular forces.
Yeah, the reserves I've got a lot of respect for the reserves. They've got to try and juggle two jobs, and they can be completely different. And those employers that allow their people to become reserves actually get a lot of benefit from that, even though they lose them for the odd, week or two or weekends. There's still a lot of benefit to the organisations that have people as reserves.
Yeah, wasn't JJ a reservist as well, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think once you've, they're particularly strong amongst the Royal Marines, once you've earned that green beret, then actually, you want to keep on wearing it, and the reserves is one way of doing it after your full-time service.
Yeah, but he went the other way around. But anyway, what else did you discover whilst listening to Tip?
Well, I love the at the end of this actually high achieving 30-year career, he talks about having another moment, is that his word, where actually he decided that actually now he wanted to become a storyteller. And he looked at creative writing, but went down the acting route. And I'm just trying to mentally visualize a 47-year-old ex, chiseled jaw Royal Marine Commando, now retired, in amongst a group of 20, 19, 20, 20. I think he said the eldest was 20. The most mature was 24 years old. Learning an acting degree down in Plymouth. That would have been an interesting period of his life.
I'm sure it was. It's interesting you say chiseled jawed, because when Rachel saw a photo of him, she said he looks like he's carved out of stone.
Yeah, well, there you go. What a great description. And so actually, the rest of his second career as an actor, there's some really interesting developments there. And he talks about bumping into Spielberg, being in an extra on Kingsman. Of course, is this the place where I say I want to be a Kingsman in his Sunray series, or Sam Seeley's Sunray series at some stage?
Well, we have got a role earmarked for you, but, are you going to still be in Portsmouth when they're filming, or will you make the effort to come back?
I certainly can have a look at doing that, certainly. I mean, what was the role you thought of, Steve?
I couldn't possibly say.
I mean, the only thing I've got to my acting credits is playing a wino on Skid Row in The Little Shop of Horrors, a Dartmouth production of the 1990s. But people said I was typecast, which I think is very unfair.
Well, I think you might be typecast in this new role, but, you'll see. You'll see if it comes to fruition.
Interestingly, you referred to this earlier, and he talked about having to play parts that have a lot of emotions in them, and then drawing on his Royal Marine background for moments in there to try and dig those emotions through. I thought that was quite good. And I like this concept of the actor's fear, which he talked about, being nervous about going on stage or in front of a camera. And the rather sweet remark about, didn't seem to be bothered by being shot at by people holding Kalashnikovs, but actually went to pieces when faced with a camera, a different type of shooting altogether.
Yeah, but how he drew upon his friends and colleagues, some of which are no longer with us, of course, to inspire him and rise to the challenge. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this before. The Royal Marine, Corps is an incredibly tight group, and when they lose one of their own or more than one of their own, that they all feel it, and they spend the rest of their lives wanting to do something to recompense for that. Interestingly, he talked about the role he's playing now in Sam Seeley's production of Sunray, where he plays the main character, is someone that's suffering from survivor's guilt or a form of PTSD. So, I imagine there will be an element of that is true as opposed to acting, because he would have felt some of that when he came back from Afghanistan and Iraq, and some of his colleagues didn't.
I think that's definitely the case. In fact, there's no doubt about that. You may remember Sam talked about this. This was the actors were drawing upon their experiences, and the production team were drawing upon their experiences to tell a story of military life post-service and some of the challenges that presents. Yeah,
absolutely. And in relation to that, he then talked about this homeless vets project that he's participating in, a short film, to highlight the issue, because obviously, he said that a disproportionate number of veterans end up homeless compared to other elements, and what form of that is PTSD or other forms of mental health issues, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but there has to be some element to that, in terms of survivor's guilt, PTSD and things like that.
Yeah, I think if you're in a difficult place with your mental health, things in the rest of your life can go south quite quickly sometimes, can't they? So how you cope with that, I think, varies enormously.
Well, since I live in Portsmouth and met you, I'm aware of the brilliant work that Company of Makers is trying to do with veterans and veteran health, mental health issues. So big shout out to you and Rachel for the Company of Makers work, which has been, really quite significant. And obviously the Royal Navy, Royal Marines Charity, who are there to support anybody that has any issues, and who you regularly give out the contact details and ask people to phone in if they need some help or advice.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you for your very kind words there. But, if any of our listeners are sort of struggling with some of the challenges in any of our episodes, then there's people out there to help.
Yes, and it will be great to promote these films when they come out, because I think that they will, a problem aired is a problem better understood. So I think it will help to highlight some of the issues that often go hidden. And it would be great that people seeing these films, be it the Homeless Vets one or the Sunray one, are willing to come forward and talk about them more, and know that there are organisations like yours and the Royal Navy Royal Marines Charity there to help.
Yeah, and also the skills these guys have learned in the Royal Marines and how they're reusing them in film production, of all things. But, I think that's a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm certain, apart from my pathetic attempts in the Little Shop of Horrors, actually I think there is some truth that, everyone in the armed forces learns to act in some way. Sometimes when you've got some bad news, but you want to keep the team together and going, and then you've got to put on an act to give everyone confidence that, that they keep going to do the right thing and things like that. So that's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think when he explained that as a civilian, I didn't even think about that, and it makes perfect sense when he explained it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll look forward I'll look out for those when they come out, and perhaps we can promote them on the website when they do.
Of course, no doubt about it.
So, Steve, back to your pottery CSE. What sort of things did you take home to Mum?
I nothing all that spectacular, I'm afraid. I'm certainly not going to be on the Great Pottery Throwdown anytime soon, I can assure you.
Oh, that's a shame. I think with a CSE to your name, you could win it, I'm sure.
That's a very important qualification. I'm sensing that you're being a little bit derisory towards my academic achievements.
Moi? Derisory? Anyway, really interesting story from a storyteller. And another good one for the podcast series.
Yeah, I get the feeling we could do an entire season with Tip and his stories. He's obviously very good at telling stories.
On that note, let's push it out there.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening. The Royal Navy and Royal Marines Charity exists to support sailors, Marines and their families for life. If you or someone you know could do with some support, give them a call on 023 93 87 1568 or drop them an email on support@rnrmc.org.uk. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to hear more, please subscribe.